Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Dylan here. We have a major update today from Stephen Miller that you don't want to miss. He just came out and exposed the truth about the Democratic Party, and he's teaming up with President Trump to expose the truth. So we're going to dive into all of this, but before we do, we're going to read scripture and pray because God comes first. Amen? So comment amen down below if you believe that God comes first. But he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me." Amen. So leave the word amen in the comment section down below. And thank you to everyone who has begun investing in the stock market. So many of you have messaged me saying that your investments are up thousands of dollars. We are now running a 90% off sale on the Invest Like Trump program. The link is below, or you can type in thefinanceZone.org. And when you sign up, you will get up to $1,000 in bonus stocks inside the program. Okay, my friends, here's Stephen Miller. He says, "This shows how far the Democratic Party has fallen." Do you agree with him that you think the Democratic Party has fallen? Let's listen in, guys.
Deputy White House Chief of Staff and Homeland Security Advisor Stephen Miller is with us. I want you to pick up on this, and then I want you to look at six-gender Tellerico. Allegations of a vile temper, throwing water bottles, the guy running against Susan Collins in Maine. Then you got the situation with El Sayed and his BFF Hassan Piker. America deserved 9/11. The streets of America should run red with the blood of capitalists and landlords. Guy that praises dictators like Mao and others. And far worse. I've played these things over and over again. How is it possible that somebody that is best friends with that guy can get the nomination in Michigan? Can he get elected? Can the guy in Maine get elected? Can six-gender Tellerico, God is non-binary, championing the rights of men to play women's sports, can he win in Texas?
Well, in Texas, you have a candidate in Tellerico who is against Christianity, he's against meat, he's against oil and gas, and he's in favor of men and women's sports. So that has about a 1% approval rating in the state of Texas. Now, to talk about something deadly serious in Michigan, to campaign with, to embrace friendship with, to court the endorsement of Hassan Piker, who has supported the 9/11 attacks. So when you say America deserved 9/11, what you are saying is that you support Osama bin Laden and you support the Al-Qaeda 9/11 attacks. That's what you're saying. So for the Democrat Party to nominate somebody who has associated themselves with somebody who supports the 9/11 attacks says everything you need to know about how far the Democrat Party has fallen in the world today, Sean. It is to the everlasting shame of Schumer and the Senate Democrats that they have not repudiated and renounced the Michigan Senate candidate for his association with this ideology of evil.
You know, the border's never been more secure. Crime down dramatically. The president with Bruce Blakeman earlier today. Stock market, 401ks, retirement funds, life expectancy, all radical records set by the president.
Yeah, the stock market is soaring under the leadership of Donald Trump. You guys who have begun investing and who are in my program know exactly what I'm talking about. If you still want to join, the 90% off sale is still active for the Invest Like Trump program. Link below, or thefinanceZone.org. Sale ends today.
And I look at their agenda, Stephen Miller, and I'll eliminate the Senate. We no longer get to choose the president. They want to pack the courts, amnesty for illegals, abolish borders, abolish ICE, end deportation, defund Department of War, abolish prisons and police, cradle to grave, womb to tomb, new Green Deal. Really, I need government healthy food. They've done such a good job in New York, for example, with government schools. They've done such a good job with the social security lockbox.
They can't even read English in New York public schools. Half of them can't even read English, is where we're at with New York public schools. Look, you just listed everything, and there's so much more, Sean. This is a struggle for the survival of America. It's that serious. It's that real. What you talked about, abolishing police, abolishing borders, abolishing ICE, abolishing fossil fuels, gutting the Department of War. These actions collectively would bring America to its knees. It would cripple us. It would crush us. It would destroy everything 250 years of patriots fought, bled, and died for. To the people at home, everything that makes your life better, Donald Trump is delivering on and fighting for. Record tax relief, zero illegal immigration, the largest reduction in murder since 1900, the lowest violent crime rates that have ever been recorded, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, rebuilding the military, taking the fight to the drug cartels to keep fentanyl from killing our families and our children. Issue after issue, President Trump is fighting for our families, and what do they want to do? They want to hand over our nation to illegal aliens, criminals, jihadists, and communists. This isn't the old debates we used to have 20, 30 years ago, Sean, where we're saying, oh, do you want taxes at 30% or 33%? This is a debate between people who fundamentally hate America, hate Americans, and want to sell this country to their friends for scraps. That's how real this is. When you nominate candidates who say that they want the endorsement of individuals who support 9/11, this is a party that is fundamentally committed to the destruction of America at a basic level.
Oh, wow. I mean, do you guys agree with Stephen Miller on that? Because, yeah, he's basically saying that some of these people are really trying to destroy this nation, you know? And Stephen Miller, he is somebody who he is not afraid to say his true thought. Here is Stephen Miller talking about the Dems. Okay, he's exposing the truth big time, guys. Listen in.
House Chief of Staff, Homeland Security Advisor, the one and only Stephen Miller. I get to see in person. Congrats on the baby, you and Katie. Appreciate it. Look, it's a party imploding. The numbers speak for itself. It's an opportunity. I would look at these as uncharted waters, as we have been discussing. But it's not a slam dunk either. I mean, there's a lot on the line here.
Well, the biggest advantage that the Democrats have always had, of course, is the uniform and total support of the crazy leftist media in this country. Right? They've always had the support of the big broadcast networks, the print newspapers, and a large portion of
all your friends at CNN and MSDNC.
And a large portion of cable, too, Sean. Exactly. But the American people are learning, and you see it reflected in the polls. Democrats' approval has never been lower, and in large part because President Trump has exposed them for who they are. They're not liberal. They're not just left-wing. They're radical left, crazy communists. They're opening up government-run grocery stores to undercut mom-and-pop stores. They are talking about abolishing the prison and jail system in this country so that everybody lives at the mercy of the predators in the street. No borders, no ICE, no police, no law enforcement, taxes through the roof, regulate companies out of existence, regulate energy out of existence, grind the economy into dust. You'll be lucky if you have a windmill, and that's about it, Sean.
Now, take a listen to President Trump.
The United States, as you probably have heard, is doing better than it has ever done in terms of business and investment. The stock market has hit a new high, as you know, and that's for many, many days out of our fairly short 8 months. And we seem to be hitting new highs, and I think we're going to do much better even as time goes by. Jobs are at a record, and most importantly, we have more than $17 trillion. $17 trillion, and this is during an 8-month period being invested in the country, which is not only a record, but if you compare $17 trillion to
all that money coming in. And I actually did listen to President Trump, and I did start investing in the stock market. And over the past year, my investments are up over $90,000. If you want to learn how to invest in the stock market, very beginner friendly, step by step and easy, you can go to thefinanceZone.com. FACELESS.org, or if you're watching this on your TV, you can just scan this QR code and get started in a couple of minutes. Even one of you guys messaged me saying that your investments are up over $13,000 after taking the program. And right now, we have a 90% off sale that ends today, up to $1,000 in bonus stocks inside the program. I go over which stocks that Trump has, which stocks that I'm buying, how to set up an account for the very first time, and I also go into depth about how to take advantage of this time we're in while Trump is still president. It's not too late. And he really is talking about this whole situation with immigration, and he's pretty passionate about it. So let's listen in, my friends.
What's on your mind? Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Miller, good to see you. Big wins today for the Trump administration on immigration.
Yes, huge.
You just said that this country doesn't have a future if the Supreme Court doesn't rule in your favor on the Birthright citizenship case. If they don't, what actions is the administration planning on?
Well, just to clear, what I said was that this country doesn't have a future if we don't end birthright citizenship. Obviously, the right and correct way to end birthright citizenship is for the Supreme Court to rule what the 14th Amendment clearly and correctly means. But one way or another, this nation has to end birthright citizenship. You had another question?
So what actions does the administration plan on taking next, as well in the asylum case? There are millions of asylum seekers right now who are still waiting for their cases to be heard by federal judges. What is the administration doing to try to move some of those along the process?
Well, I think the most important point is that this administration, on the asylum point, is we've implemented international agreements all over the world to take in our asylum seekers. So America's doors are closed fully to asylum seekers. We've set up agreements where if you want asylum, then we will find a country elsewhere in the world to take you. It's very simple, a very elegant, a very complete solution. Now, of course, as you know, you've heard me talk about it here many times before, all asylum claims across the southwest border are always fake. They always involve somebody who is coming from a country where they're not being persecuted based on race, religion, ethnicity, so on and so forth. Overwhelmingly, right, they're coming from other countries in the Western Hemisphere where there's no persecution based on religion, no persecution based on race, etc. In many cases, of course, they also come through dozens of other countries on their way here, where if they wanted asylum, they should have sought it first. In every case, they're either criminals, benefit seekers, economic migrants, welfare seekers, etc., etc. They're coming to join family members and so forth. But the good news for them is that you have other countries willing to take them. Yes, you had a question? Well, so first of all, on humanitarian issues, the most humanitarian thing that we could do is, which is what we are doing and have done, is to end illegal immigration. That is the most humanitarian thing. Every single illegal immigrant who comes to the United States is brought here by a cartel, by a foreign terrorist organization. Those individuals are often raped, they're often beaten, they're often robbed. They come here, it's a form of indentured servitude. They have to pay off their debts to the cartel after they arrive. And beyond all of that, their profits that they earn from that human smuggling goes into kidnapping, torture, sex trafficking, drug trafficking, fentanyl. So it's a very important point. The individuals, by the way, so let's say you're an illegal immigrant from Mexico. You know full well who is smuggling you. When you pay them $6,000, you understand those $6,000 are going to one of the evilest organizations on planet Earth. You know that when you do it. And it's a sinful thing, but we're doing the best we can and have done an extraordinary job under President Trump's leadership. There has been 13, I believe is the correct number, consecutive months with, maybe it's actually 14 now, but 13 or 14 consecutive months with not a single person released across the southern border, which has never been achieved before.
Mr. Miller,
It's back there in the blue jacket.
Mr. Miller, was the killing of the two citizens in Minnesota something of a turning point in this country's immigration policies? Did the tactics change from that moment? Because the president suggested that they had.
Well, I think what you've seen under the leadership of Secretary Mullen is a tremendous focus on achieving results through incredibly efficient mechanisms. So, for example, one of the things that you've seen in the recent days that has been really extraordinary is President Trump signed an executive order to debank illegal aliens, which is an incredibly effective action to get illegal aliens out of the country. You've also seen continuing budgetary reforms at ICE to make sure that resources are being allocated as efficiently as possible towards actual enforcement and removal operations, right, stretching every dollar further. And you've seen with this new ICE legislation that's been passed, and as Tom Homan has said, he's been here many times recently, I think in the last couple of days, that the new funding that's been passed through Congress via reconciliation will allow deportation numbers to continue to climb, as well as all the legal reforms that are being put into place. And the recent Supreme Court ruling, of course, means that now millions of illegal immigrants from Haiti, who were previously beyond the reach of the law, are now within the reach of the law. Yes,
sir, when it comes to deportation, sir, do you expect the administration to deport anyone who loses TPS status as a result of this ruling?
Sorry, say again. There's just a little cross up in the beginning.
No worries. Do you expect the administration to deport anyone who loses TPS status as a result of this ruling?
Well, of course, if you no longer have status in this country, then you're supposed to be deported. And in particular, in the case of the Haitians, the Biden administration flew over vast numbers. It's hard to know the exact number, but probably more than 1 million illegal immigrants from Haiti. That's not counting the border crossings into the United States. So these are people who've only been here for a few months, who are receiving welfare, whose all their ties, all their social connections, all their family is back in their home country of Haiti, and of course that's where they should go.
Does that mean more ICE deployments then?
In light of,
yes, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, in light of the NATO issue and everything else, are you guys still looking at Greenland to get NATO support, or to get access to the Arctic? What's
well, the president's been clear about how important Greenland is to the United States, but I don't have any updates on Greenland. Time for one more question. Yeah, go ahead. Right.
Does the administration consider Haiti a safe country?
For Haitians, absolutely.
For Haitians?
Yes.
Despite the do not travel warnings?
Yes, so yes, Haitians live in Haiti. It's not our position that Haitians should leave Haiti. I mean, it'd be crazy for us to say that Haitians couldn't live in Haiti. It's their country. Of course Haitians should live in Haiti. There's no viable asylum, or to use a technical term here, CAT claim, or withholding claim for any Haitian seeking relief from going back to Haiti, to their homeland. The fact that there might be pockets of Haiti where there's higher crime rates, guess what? There's pockets of Chicago with crime rates just as high, right? There's pockets of cities like St. Louis with crime just as high. Pockets of Los Angeles with crime just as high. It has never been the case that having communities that have high crime rates is a basis for asylum. Never has been, never will be. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now, or even better, start a monthly contribution today.
I mean, I have to say, Stephen Miller, he is somebody who is not afraid to speak out, and I really think he's kind of acting like Trump's right-hand man right now and coming out and speaking to the press when nobody really else wants to. And here's Stephen Miller saying this is the same party that allowed mass invasion of the United States. Okay, let's tune in.
Guarantee every single American health care through Medicare for all. I think it is high past time that the billionaires get taxed on their wealth.
Here to discuss is Stephen Miller, White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. Stephen, I want to get your thoughts on Fauci in a moment as well. But so suddenly now they're wrapping themselves in the America First blanket, saying they're actually taking the most interest right now in the American people, their needs, while you guys are all running off to take care of Iran's needs.
So, Laura, this is the same party, the same movement, the same group of people who allowed and perpetuated and authorized the mass invasion of the United States by foreigners with no right to be here from the worst places in the third world to take our jobs, our communities, our country, our safety, our future. This is the same extremist movement that has dismantled our nation's police departments during the Biden era, setting free criminals who are hardened predators to rape, maim, murder innocent Americans. These are the same exact people who've lent aid and comfort to Antifa, to the global terrorism movement, to foreign drug cartels, and yes, to the Iranian regime that is responsible for the murder of countless American soldiers serving overseas. At every single turn, the radical left Democrat Party, now run by socialists and communists, has sided with America's adversaries, with foreigners, with illegal aliens, and with criminals over law-abiding American citizens.
Well, taking the brand is clearly a sign that they're at sea, and they know that the America First idea is popular, and that's what people want. So they're trying to kind of rebrand themselves into that. At the same time, they want to elevate illegals and their patriotic spirit, Stephen, over that of native-born Americans. Check this out.
So many of the detainees that I have met, whether I was in Louisiana or Texas or in Massachusetts, they are some of the greatest patriots you will ever meet. They love this country, and they have been making positive contributions to it every day. We have to abolish ICE.
Stephen, they're the true American patriots. They're better than you. They're smarter than you. They're more honor roll students than you're ever going to have. These are the true American, the real renegades for the American experience.
And yet somehow, Laura, they cannot enrich their own countries. They cannot enrich Haiti. They cannot enrich Somalia. They cannot enrich the failed states in Latin America or in Africa or in parts of the Middle East. Somehow, these migrants are not able to make any of their own countries work. And we're told, in fact, their own countries are so unsafe they cannot live there. But no one can ever explain why their countries are failed, why they're so supposedly or actually unsafe, why it is that it doesn't work. Laura, if you allow unlimited migration from the third world to the United States, all that happens is you turn America into the same third world country from which these migrants came.
Now, President Trump just came out to address the nation. Let's listen in.
We have the highest stock market in the history of our country by far, every single month. That's another thing you should camp. They like to demean that. The Democrats, well, that doesn't mean anything. That's just, no. That means jobs, and it means 401ks.
I actually did listen to President Trump, and I did start investing in the stock market. And over the past year, my investments are up over $90,000. If you want to learn how to invest in the stock market, very beginner-friendly, step-by-step and easy, you can go to theFinanceZone.org, or if you're watching this on your TV, you can just scan this QR code and get started in a couple of minutes. Even one of you guys messaged me saying that your investments are up over $13,000 after taking the program. And right now, we have a 90% off sale that ends today, up to $1,000 in bonus stocks inside the program. I go over which stocks that Trump has, which stocks that I'm buying, how to set up an account for the very first time, and I also go into depth about how to take advantage of this time we're in while Trump is still president. It's not too late. Okay, my friends, so Stephen Miller just teamed up with JD Vance to expose the truth, talking about anti-fraud initiative. Let's tune in. He's exposing it. We need to share this with more people. Share it on Facebook. Let's listen in.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Vice President, for your leadership on this bold and existentially important initiative. Thank you to Mr. Ferguson for your incredible work and stewardship of this task force. And of course, thank you to President Trump for his extraordinary leadership in establishing this task force, assigning this portfolio to the Vice President, and providing direction, focus, and determination to the whole U.S. government. It's great to see all of my friends in the House and Senate who are here today, who have been such tremendous allies, not only on this issue, but so many issues, and in some cases for a very, very long time, since 2015 and before. And so thank you all. I want to pick up, because this is something that I've encountered on a daily basis, on a theme that both the Vice President and Andrew Ferguson have mentioned, which is the lack of criminal responsibility, the lack of criminal punishment for egregious fraud in this country. It is, first of all, true, as the Vice President said, as hard as it is to believe, that for most recent history, which in the case of these programs would be in the history of these programs, if you committed $1 million of fraud or less, you were unlikely to ever be criminally punished in any way at all. And if for some strange reason in the past, a bureaucrat had the courage to defy that agency guidance and actually bring you to trial and put you in front of a jury, you'd be unlikely to do any real jail time at all. And this may be hard to believe that you could steal hundreds of thousands and ultimately millions of dollars and not do any significant jail time. Again, you can look at the sentences for the Feeding Our Futures fraud, which is one of the largest frauds in the history of any country anywhere in Minnesota, to see this. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I think probably the simplest, least conspiratorial explanation is that when Congress was drafting these statutes, they still lived, to use the phrase that he's left in a high-trust society, and it eclipsed their imagination that there would be systemic, widespread, continual lying, fleecing, and organized crime to rip off hundreds of billions of dollars from the American taxpayer, which is what has happened. So there needs to...
And there should be consequences for that. Comment below if you believe that people should either go to jail, be arrested, or have to pay that money back, right? Those are your dollars.
Be strict, clear, mandatory minimums. Because by the time you've been convicted, you have already proven to a jury, this is not a civil punishment, this is you've proven to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt that you deliberately, willfully, maliciously engage in a scheme to steal from the American taxpayer and from those in genuine need. And when you've satisfied 12 jurors of that fact and been convicted, you deserve to have a very substantial prison sentence. That change alone would be watershed for fighting fraud, because it would mean that the Department of Justice would be able to, through prosecuting a few hundred or thousand cases in a year, be able to chill the criminal conduct of millions. Whereas right now, no matter how many people you prosecute, you're still left with the criminal element thinking, I'm willing to risk 6 months in jail for $5 million in ill-gotten gains. And we've reached a point, and again, only because of President Trump and the Vice President's leadership is this happening. We've reached a point as a country, until we came along, as hard as it is to believe, where we have federal law enforcement in cities around the country who have to conduct weeks or months-long investigations of daycares where there are no children present at all, to be able to then go into a court of law and say, no kids on Monday, no kids on Tuesday, no kids on Wednesday, no kids on Thursday, right? And this is the real thing. We have federal law enforcement officers who then they have to issue subpoenas and search warrants to get phone records, email records, financial records. And what does it all end up with? You go to a jury, has collected $7 million for a daycare, claiming to be taking care of 100 children for 6 months, and we found one kid attended in the entire time, and he was the nephew. So you spend months of federal effort. When you do that and you're found guilty, you belong in jail for a very long time. I'm almost over my own time here, so I'll just add to the other point the Vice President said, which is on data sharing and technology and integrity, you can solve 95% of this problem with simple technological verification and data sharing measures that is in technology that was invented 20 years ago. Now, the technology today, of course, is even more astonishing. But if every single person who wanted to enroll in SNAP or enroll in Medicaid or enroll in public housing was in a shared database that the federal government had access to verify age, citizenship, criminal record, other basic biographic facts, that single step alone would save taxpayers hundreds of billions of dollars. And you have to ask yourself, why would any politician oppose something so fundamental? We're not even debating eligibility rules.
My reason is that maybe some of them are either involved in it or they benefit in some way. Because remember, the lobbyists are very powerful, right? They get funding to keep these people in office in exchange for voting on legislation that favors the lobbyists. Remember that, guys.
Important but separate debate. We are debating whether or not a person is lying to the government to extract funds for which they are plainly and clearly ineligible. The time has come to implement these reforms. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Vince? Thank you, and good morning, everyone. We gather today because President Trump has made stopping the fraud and corruption in our welfare programs a governing priority. Thank you to Vice President Vance, Chairman Ferguson, Stephen Miller, and Executive Director Brady for their leadership in carrying out this duty. and to the members of Congress here for joining in this important work.
So what do you guys think? Why do you guys think that there's nothing being done about it? You know, it's kind of crazy, to me at least. And this is Stephen Miller saying the Cold War has come home. And here's actually Stephen Miller teaming up with President Trump to talk about one of the gravest and most egregious abuses. Miller explains order to ban birth tourism. What do you guys think about this? Banning birth tourism. This is crazy, guys. I didn't even know that this was a thing. So we're going to listen into this, my friends. So let's listen in.
Steve, maybe you could discuss what we're dealing with on birthright citizenship. We had a very unfortunate decision in the Supreme Court concerning birthright. It was close, but a very, very unfortunate decision. So we're making adjustments because it's very unfair. This was done for a different reason. This was done right after the Civil War. This was for the babies of slaves. And what's happening now, people are building businesses around it. From wealthy people are building businesses around birthright citizenship. That's not the way it's supposed to work. It's a disgrace. They're buying their way in, and we're not going to let it happen. So, Steve, if you will, please.
Yes, so today the president signed these two executive orders here relating to birthright citizenship and birth tourism. As the president mentioned, the 14th Amendment was passed exclusively in the aftermath of the Civil War so to ensure that the children of slaves would be citizens. It had no other meaning and purpose outside of that. And that's been clear, obviously, since the day that it was passed. You can go back, you can read the congressional debates. This is not something that's even seriously contested by anybody. The president is using his authority as commander-in-chief to sign first an executive order using the new ruling the Supreme Court issued to expand the definitions of people who are ineligible for birthright citizenship. That includes, for example, alien enemies of the United States, members of foreign terrorist organizations, and large categories of people who lobby and act on behalf of foreign governments. And so with taking this action, it ensures that large numbers of people who wrongly would be getting birthright citizenship will no longer be eligible for those benefits. The second action that he's taking, which is especially historic, is for the first time ever in American history to ban birth tourism. So I want you to really let that sink in. This has been something that people have talked about not only for years, but for decades. The idea that people come here pretending to be a tourist, pretending to be a visitor, saying they want to go to Disneyland, or they want to go visit a monument or go to a national park, but the real reason they're here is to have a child, to make that child an automatic citizen, leave our country, and then have a U.S. citizen child. It gives them access under this broken system to welfare benefits, ultimately to the voting booth, and all the other rights and privileges that belong solely to Americans. So that practice of birth tourism is, as of the signing of this order, hereby banned. And what that means...
Whoa, banned, guys. Holy crap.
...is that no one in the world is any more allowed to obtain a visa for this fraudulent purpose. It is probably, and President Trump has done many historic things on immigration, too many to list now, sealed the southern border shut, record deportations, record integrity, stopping foreign terrorist entry, record reduction in drug seizures, dismantling criminal cartels, dismantling the gangs, right? Everything he's done that has been so unprecedented. I would put this in the top 3 in terms of importance because it ends what has been one of the gravest and most egregious abuses of the American system, and it keeps American citizenship sacred.
Thank you.
Wow. So what do you guys think about that? Now, President Trump just came out to address the nation. Let's listen in.
The markets are going to boom, the stock is going to boom, the country is going to boom, and the rest of the world wants to see, is there any way they can make a deal? They've taken advantage of us for many, many years. For many years, we've been at the wrong side of the ball, and I'll tell you what, I think it's going to be unbelievable. The thing that people have to talk about, we're up almost to $7 trillion of investment coming into our country, and you'll see how it's going to turn out. Our country's going to boom.
President Trump says our country and the market is going to boom. And I actually did listen to President Trump, and I did start investing in the stock market. And over the past year, my investments are up over $90,000. If you want to learn how to invest in the stock market, very beginner friendly, step-by-step and easy, you can go to theFinanceZone.org, or if you're watching this on your TV, you can just scan this QR code and get started in a couple of minutes. Even one of you guys messaged me saying that your investments are up over $13,000 after taking the program. And right now, we have a 90% off sale that ends today, up to $1,000 in bonus stocks inside the program. I go over which stocks that Trump has, which stocks that I'm buying, how to set up an account for the very first time, and I also go into depth about how to take advantage of this time we're in while Trump is still president. It's not too late.